So it gives me great pleasure tonight to introduce Holly Anderson, who I'm sure everyone is here because of her tonight. Holly, as we know, as our guest chef, is the executive director and president of the Breast Cancer Coalition of Rochester, a place she has been and created and established for almost 20 years. She brings her wit, her joy, and her incredible advocacy for people with breast cancer to her role and to our community, for which we are so fortunate. Joining her tonight will be Sue Czap, who's a registered dietitian and specialist in oncology nutrition here at the Pluta Integrative Oncology Center and the Wilmot Cancer Institute. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce both Holly and Sue, who are going to join me up at the table here with our beautiful array of gorgeous vegetables.
So I'm going to just show a couple of different salad dressings that you can make. It's very easy to change the flavor profile of a salad. Just with a salad dressing, you can use different flavored oils and vinegars, herbs and spices, different kinds of mustards to change it. So today we're going to do more of a Mediterranean, a basic balsamic, and then more of an Asian-style dressing with sesame and ginger. I like to use mason jars to prepare salad dressings. You can just shake everything in one. You don't have to have more dishes to clean. If I'm making a large quantity, I can use like a 2-cup mason jar. And sometimes if I just want a smaller batch, I'll use a mini jar to get me through the week. Once you prepare the homemade dressings, they are good for about 1 week in the refrigerator. If you use something like olive oil, it may solidify a little bit in the refrigerator. But if you just set it out at room temperature or run it under some warm water, it will return to a liquid consistency. So we're going to start with a basic balsamic vinaigrette. So in the jar here, I put balsamic vinegar. Maybe you do it over there. And there's many different kinds of balsamic vinegars. And then I put in a clove of garlic, so the garlic is kind of infusing right into the vinegar here. I'm going to add some olive oil, which is what my go-to oil for a Mediterranean standard vinaigrette. Another place I like to highlight too, a real jewel we have here in Rochester is F. Oliver's. If you've ever had the chance to go visit them, they sell specialty oils and vinegars that are flavored, and they vary with the season, but it's a great place to go and get some oils and vinegars that have different flavors and will add more interest to your dressings. I'm going to add a little bit of Dijon mustard. That's going to be an emulsifier, which helps to keep the vinegar and the oil mixed together. As we all know, oil and vinegar tend to separate out, and the mustard will help them stay together. And this is going to be just a pretty basic vinaigrette, so I'm just going to add a little bit of salt and pepper, and this is really to taste. So you may want to just start with a small amount, taste it, and then add more based on your preferences. Combine everything in the jar, screw the lid on tightly. You don't want oil and vinegar flying around your kitchen. And just give it a good shake. It's always good to have a tasting spoon close by. And that's perfect for me. You could add a little basil to this or to your salad. Would certainly keep it in that Mediterranean type theme. And so this is a great vinaigrette. If you can also use it as a marinade for meat or fish during the week. So it can be more than just a basic salad dressing. Next, we're going to do the sesame ginger dressing. As I said, you're going to get all these recipes tomorrow. Some of the key ingredients in this dressing are our acid is going to be a rice vinegar. Usually you have some type of acid or vinegar or citrus juice. We're going to use soy sauce, and that's going to give it a big salty component. You won't have to add any additional salt, although I do use the reduced sodium soy sauce. And then we're going to use sesame oil, 2 types of sesame oil. One is a toasted sesame oil, which has a very rich flavor, and you only need to use a small amount of that. And then we have a basic sesame oil. And then this is a great combination for more of a Asian type dressing. And I'm sure Holly will put together a great salad combo that would work nicely with this. So again, we're going to start with our mason jar. We've got the rice wine vinegar in there. We're going to add some grated ginger. So I just use the fresh ginger root. This is what it looks like. I peel the skin back a little bit, but you don't have to do that. And then I use a microplane to grate it, and I'll show you how I do that. I kind of do it upside down. I actually have the microplane kind of inverted. That way it captures everything that you're grating, and then you just have to flip it over and dump it into your jar. Certainly the ginger is an optional ingredient, or you could add more or less. This is a fair amount. It's about 2 teaspoons of ginger. And again, with these dressings, since you make them yourselves, you can also customize the proportion of vinegar and oil. Personally, I know I like mine to be a little bit more tart. I tend to use a higher amount of vinegar, but you can certainly adjust it to your taste preferences, which is one of the nice benefits of making homemade dressings. So we have our rice vinegar, our ginger. We're going to add some garlic clove. We're going to use some soy sauce. Again, this is the reduced sodium soy sauce. A small amount of the toasted sesame oil. And you can really smell that sesame flavor since it's toasted. And then the regular sesame oil. If you prefer not to have such a strong sesame flavor profile, for the regular sesame oil, you could just use either olive oil or more of a neutral oil like a canola oil. We're going to add just a touch of honey for some sweetness, just to balance it out. With most dishes, you want to balance your acid, your salt, your sweetness. Same thing, we'll give it a good shake. Especially with that little bit of honey in there, we want to make sure that that gets well dissolved and distributed in the dressing. Very tasty. It definitely has an Asian profile with all that sesame oil in there, but I like that. I think it would be a nice balance with this salad. And you can certainly taste the ginger too, so it's a very nice way to add some flavor to your salads. So I'm going to turn it over now to Holly, who's going to show us how to use some of these dressings. She's got a beautiful display of produce here, and we're thrilled that she's here to join us.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. This is one of my favorite things to do. It is salad in a jar, and I've got 2 different sizes, and I'm going to use some of Sue's salad dressings in the bottom. You'll notice that we're masked when we're near each other, and we get to take off the masks when we're not as close to each other. I just want to say a few words before we even get started. This looks very time-consuming. I want to tell you what we've got here on the table. I have cannellini beans, which are just really well rinsed. The same thing with these chickpeas or garbanzos. I have black beans. I have peas, because I love those in salads. I have corn. And then this is my cheat. This is a cheat because I love salsas and bruschettas. They can be thrown into a salad, and you get tomatoes, you get herbs, you get onion, you get all of that, and you don't have to do the work. So just picking up a little container of pre-made, preferably fresh. I know some of the grocery stores have that, and you have an amazing cheat. So you don't have to chop and dice all those things up. I've got celery, which I love because it's crunchy. I also have 3 different color peppers, red pepper, yellow pepper, orange pepper, radishes, and I've got the rainbow carrots, mushrooms. I've got Kalamata olives. You could use any kind of olive. You can chop them up or just use them whole. Again, there's no way you can go wrong with assembling salads together. I've got blue cheese, and I've got parm, and I've got, this is a mixed Mexican cheese. It's got Colby, it's got cheddar, it's got Monterey Jack. I'm trying to think of what else is in Mexican cheese. And I've got yellow and green squash, zucchini and yellow squash, which are absolutely delicious in a salad. And I know my son balked when I did this as a family fun time. I provided all the ball jars and invited my daughter and her husband, my son and his wife, my husband and I, to come and just play with food, assemble these in ball jars. My son and his wife are teachers. They are constantly grabbing and going, and food choices are really, it's tough when you're on the go and you have 3 little children, and they do. So, this was just kind of me introducing them to make it on Sunday, and you'll have it for the rest of the week. You'll grab one Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And they really do stay okay. They're by Friday, you don't want broccoli or cauliflower in your ball jar because it does sort of pick up the smell. And when you open the ball jar at work, people are like, "Ugh, what is that?" The other things that I don't have in the bowl is jicama, which is it's wonderful. It's crunchy. Sue, are you going to talk a little bit about the different foods here? And I have purple onion, which I also love. Mushrooms, I already said. Radishes. You want to say anything about the different foods, and I'll start assembling?
Sure.
How's that?
I think Holly's done a wonderful job embracing the concept that I often say, which is eat the rainbow. You can tell from this gorgeous display, she's got lots of fruits and vegetables from different colors. And the reason we talk about eating the rainbow is each color of the fruits or vegetables I have what we call phytonutrients or plant-based nutrients. Phyto is spelled P-H-Y-T-O. And those are really the disease fighters. They're different from vitamins and minerals, but they're plant-specific nutrients that help our bodies stay strong, our immune system stay strong, and fight disease. Like, for example, in the red tomatoes, it has a phytonutrient called lycopene in it. in the deep purple, like the red onion or red cabbage or beets. There's a phytonutrient called anthocyanin. Even in the white vegetables, cauliflower, corn, they also have phytonutrients. People often tell me they don't like to eat anything white, but don't forget about those white vegetables or tan vegetables. They still have nutrients. That onion family has allium, which are sulfur components, which are very important for health. And then the beta-carotene or different carotenoids, those are even in things like corn, because there's different color carotenoids. It's going to be in your red peppers, your deep green vegetables too. So that's really why we encourage people to eat the rainbow, so they get a good variety of these fruits and vegetables, as well as making the dish very visually appealing.
So just to start, I put in a little bit of dressing in the bottom of the jar, and then I added things that are not going to absorb the dressing really well, like the carrots and the celery. I didn't put the radish in yet because it's got a strong flavor, and I want people to be able to taste the celery and the carrots. But to that, I added the 3 different colored peppers. I'm adding some of the squashes, the green zucchini, the yellow squash. And then I'm going to start adding lettuce. And it's really, again, you walk through the grocer, go to the public market, because things are coming out now that are absolutely beautiful, and then start stuffing the lettuce in. And let me tell you something. This is like, what does a ball jar hold? About 4 cups of everything. And when I first started paying attention to eating better and being really careful, which was probably, I would say, 5 years into tamoxifen and aromatase inhibitors for me, I really had a big appetite, frankly. And so this, if you look at this is just vegetables. It's wonderful. You can really pack a lot in there. And then, get it in there. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Add the things that have a little bit of a stronger taste. I love Kalamata olives, so I'm throwing those in there. Putting mushrooms in, and you can't go wrong. I also like to put a little bit of cheese in, and then nuts on top. And I've got a trick for you with doing that. So I like the cheese can go right in on the top. And let's see, this is the balsamic, so I'm going to add a little bit of Parm cheese here. I picked just this wonderful mixture. Which lettuce do I have here? It's just the spring mix. So all these flavors are going to go really nicely together. And then one other little trick is, sorry about this. I got myself prepared and didn't do the little trickster stuff over here. Sue used these little containers just for her ingredients, and I have to say, this was a splurge for me back in September when I was taking things back and forth to work. These are 2-ounce containers, just little 2-ounce containers. You can, if you don't want to put your salad in the bottom of the jar, you can put it in one of these and pack it separately, or have different ones ready to go in the fridge, pack everything else. But I just find, for me, it's easier to just put it all in there. But things that can go in these containers and they slip right in there I love pistachios. So I put some pistachios in my salad. But I also have here sunflower seeds, and I've got some walnuts, the candied walnuts that you can get in the cheese shop at one of our favorite grocers. That goes really well with goat cheese and beet salad. And then these are Patty's nuts. You probably wondered what they were. Our board of directors chair, Patty Cataldi, gives these nuts to everybody at the holidays, and they are so good over a goat cheese, beet, and spring green salad, any kind of salad really. And then I use the Paul Newman's honey oh gosh, it's like a honey Dijon salad dressing, drizzle it over, and then a little bit of honey from the Honey Man in Webster, and call it a day. But you can just put those right in there and put the lid on.
That is such a great hack that little souffle
Isn't it?
cup fits right in there perfectly,
It
right?
does. It does. It fits right in there perfectly, and then your nuts don't get soft. You know how who wants a soft nut, right? So this is just one. So we'll put that there. Actually, I'll put it right here. How's that? Okay, and then this is the one. I'm going to open I didn't do the spinach here. How are we doing on time, Sue?
You're doing great. The other great thing, not only are you getting phytonutrients with something like this, you're getting a lot of dietary fiber. And most Americans don't eat enough dietary fiber, so vegetables and fruit, whole grains are all great sources of dietary fiber. So this is, like Holly was saying, you're getting in 4 cups of vegetables
Right, you're
at
getting
your meal, which makes a huge contribution to your...
It is. And our staff at the Breast Cancer Coalition had a fun day where we all brought in different things for salads. So we didn't make ball jars, but we brought in different ingredients. Nobody knew what the other was bringing, and we ended up with just sort of like a stone soup, if you remember that book from your childhood. We also did an oatmeal where we learned from Dr. Ling how to do steel-cut oats in a crock pot. And we decided we would leave the crock pot going with the steel-cut oats, and everyone would bring a special topping. And nobody duplicated. It was absolutely amazing that nobody duplicated. We had all kinds of toppings from, a variety of different soups. And Susan Wood, the yoga instructor here, who was also our graphic design staff member at the time, she brought in salsa, and we all thought she was crazy. Until we ate it. It was really good. So this one I'm using the sesame dressing. And for this one, I'm thinking I am definitely going to put in some of the squashes in the bottom. I think that those would go really nicely. And I'm also going to add peppers because I'm thinking, what would I put in a stir fry? What would go nicely in a stir fry? Maybe not the squashes so much because they have so much water in them. However, this is a salad, so we can do that. And I'm putting in some celery and let's see, definitely some mushrooms. They should be shiitake or something a little bit more exotic than what I'm putting in here. But I'm gonna load this with spinach. And this is another cheat. You can buy these pre-washed. You don't have to though. They are a little bit more expensive, but they're definitely, if you're in a hurry and you're trying to eat healthy, this is definitely a worthwhile treat. The other thing is my daughter-in-law, she's in Florida, and she's a health coach, and she does food prep on Sunday for their entire week. She's got 2 little kids and my son, and she does this food prep thing. And she makes a big production out of it, and I've learned a lot from her of just getting everything together. I would also put like purple onion in this one, definitely some more mushrooms. But the coolest thing is when you go to pour this out, let's see, what kind of cheese would I like in this one? I think it's sesame, and I know it's a stronger, you know what I'm going to put in here? Blueberries. I'm going to throw some blueberries in with the spinach.
I think you could easily even do some maybe mandarin oranges, or would they be too wet?
No, they would be great in here.
Or clementines?
Yeah, absolutely. What else would go well in spinach salad? If you wanted to put in a hard-boiled egg, mash that up and put that in there too, that would be great. If you wanted nuts in this would be great. So it's spinach, it's got the sesame thing. I'm going to put in just some of Patty's nuts.
Are those like a spiced nut?
They are. They're a spice nut, and I swear so much of what's here it has pepper in it. But it's a sweet nut, and we want the recipe. So if anybody knows Patty Cataldi and can get into her house, we would love to do that. So this is just so pretty, and it's ready to go. And this one I put into a smaller jar and put that right over there. I want to make one more. Do we have time for that, or even a couple more? Okay.
Absolutely.
So the other thing, and this is This is going to be a Southwest. This is going to be a Southwest salad, and so this is another cheat that you don't even need to use dressing for. This happens to be a mild salsa. If you read the ingredients, there's nothing here you need to be worried or ashamed of in any way, shape, or form. But it makes a great base for a salad, and you don't need the dressing. It's wet, but the wetness comes from mainly from the vegetables. It's got organic tomato puree, which has water, organic tomato paste, and citric acid. It's got organic diced tomatoes. It's got jalapeno peppers, everything just so healthy and wonderful. And this, a little bit more than you would for dressing because it doesn't have oil in it. So it's going to be harder for it to spread.
Yeah, I love the salsa idea as a dressing option for Southwest style.
It's so good.
That's a great
idea.
idea.
It's so good. And then, so in the bottom of this one, this is going to be Southwest. So what goes in a Southwest salad? Well, I always have to put celery in everything. Sometimes I got myself in trouble with food because I was really bored with it. Like what you put in what you eat, what you put in your salads, what you do can be really boring. And you get into ruts where you're just serving lettuce with some scallions and some cucumbers or whatever, you're just kind of throwing things in there. And it's the same thing that you make day after day after day. And this gets you out of that rut. And you can make them for the week. You don't have to take these to lunch every day. You can actually make them and serve them to your family at night if you have a few people still living at home. And if not, then use smaller jars for yourself. But, the other thing that Susan taught us is really pay attention to what you're doing. Enjoy the process. Relax. Consider the vegetable prep almost like a meditation. And it is that. I mean, it's just so much, you have to pay attention. When you're cutting celery, everything gets washed and then you just start cutting. And it is so peaceful and it's like a meditation to start, dicing everything up and chopping everything up. We have a recipe in our family called Zen Couscous, and it has a lot of vegetables in it and then a box of couscous. And we use Good Seasons dressing for it, made with a little less oil, a little more vinegar, and we love F. Olivers. But that everybody has to pitch in because it's very time-consuming to chop all the specific things that we need, and we like to chop them up tiny so that you're, not like you can't tell what they are, but we definitely like to do that. I've really just spent time together at the table. They pull out the chair, you hand them whatever you're asking them to chop up. And seriously, there's like 15 things in it. It is so healthy. Everybody loves it. I make it once in the winter because it's such a summer thing to make. So I'm going to put black beans in this one. I've got other beans too, but it's a Southwest salad, right? So you really want to put in, what's good about the beans? Did you say that?
I was just going to add, I think it's good to add some sort of a plant-based protein to salads. You can certainly use, if you have cooked chicken or fish left over, but the plant-based proteins like the black beans or chickpeas, cannellini beans, do have some of those phytonutrients because they are plant-based, as well as protein, and are a very good source of dietary fiber. But it's a nice way to kind of balance out the salad so it's more of a complete meal with the protein in it.
It's wonderful. And this one is, I'm putting in the black beans, some corn, the tomatoes, an onion here. I already put in the base. I snuck in some celery and some radish because it just needs the crunch. And then my favorite lettuce for this is actually romaine, and I've cleaned and washed this ahead of time. And you can cram a lot of romaine. I'm cutting it. I know you're supposed to tear it gently, but I mean, come on. It's salad in a jar. We're in a hurry. So, but you cannot believe how much lettuce you can pack in there. And that's the point. All of these wonderful vegetables are wet and lovely and, just get them in there. And I have to say, it's definitely a lunch to look forward to.
I like how you also talk about doing meal prep. Those people that do plan their meals and do some meal prep actually do tend to eat more healthy. So it is
Yeah.
kind of a good habit, and I do it myself, and
Yeah.
kind of gotten our family a little bit more involved through COVID. Everybody's been participating a little bit more.
What, and she actually like cooks she has, they eat chicken. Her children love fresh broccoli trees, we call them, that they load in there. But she has a lot of that, braising of vegetables and things like that on Sunday. And it's quite, she'll take pictures of like the whole process because she's this coach. And you definitely see where it takes time to do this and a little bit of thought ahead of time. You have to go buy the stuff, you have to wash it, you have to prep it, but then you're done for the
Right.
entire week. You are done. So I also, in this one, so it's, I don't know, what nut should I use, Sue? Sunflower seeds or? Pumpkin seeds would be good. The other thing is, if you like, if you want to add croutons, this is another great way of not eating the bag of croutons because the seasoning can be very enticing, and you really just need a couple of tablespoons of this, and so you can put those in here too. I would pack them very neatly and make sure that I get 5 or 6 of them in this little container and then go from there. And so I'm going to do that. And again, it's going to keep the moisture from getting all over it. Look at that. I even can get a couple of extra ones in there. So that's going to be great. That's going to be wonderful. Oh, you know what I didn't add? I did not add the Mexican cheese mixture. So a little bit of cheese. Some people, you don't need to add it. You don't need to add you can make these vegan, 100% vegan if you want. This is not very much that I just put in here. But it does a little bit of fat in the cheese does sate the appetite. It stays with you.
Yeah, a little fat is good. I just think of cheese as more of a garnish, but the cheese does give a little bit of fat that helps
Yeah.
with a lot of these phytonutrients are also fat soluble, in particular lycopene in the tomatoes. So, and a lot of the carotenoids are like the beta carotene.
Yeah.
So when you have a little bit of fat in your diet, you actually absorb them better.
Yeah.
So it's all about balance and proportion, but you want to balance out those nutrients. And I like how you're also adding different textures with the croutons and the nuts. So that makes it interesting, and all the different flavor profiles. So like you said, you don't get bored. You can.
So one question I have for you, Sue, is paying attention to what you eat. Sometimes you just, when you're done eating, you feel like you're comfortable, you're sated, but all of a sudden you feel like you need to change the flavor in your mouth. Like you want a Hershey's Kiss, or you want something that's sweet or different. And I feel like this, accomplishes a lot when you have all the different tastes and flavors. Our mouths get bored. Everything is boring. So take something like that. Okay, I just threw that in there because it's in the bottom, but I'm going to make one more, just using some of the things that I have not used here. And again, we're going to go with the things at the bottom that you don't want to absorb the dressing as easily. And just throw all these different things in there.
So do you really like these narrow jars?
I
Narrow mouth jars?
do. They're okay. They're. I'm going to add the chickpeas here because they're an easy one to sort of put in at this point. I like the jars. It's okay to use the ones that have the narrow top. You can get your hand in there. Most people can. I know my 6'6" son that played basketball for Webster. He is really good at cramming all that stuff in there. Okay, so I'm going to add, right now I'm going to use up some of the romaine. You can mix the lettuce and you can put any kind you want. I looked at the Boston Bib lettuce to see whether because I love that. That's the one that I would use with the beets and the goat cheese and Patty's nuts and the Newman dressing. But it wasn't that great, and so I went with some alternatives instead. But there's no rule. We're not serving to, what's her name? We're not, or Jamie Oliver, or, Rachel Ray, or any of that. I mean, we're cool. We can just put whatever we want in there.
Absolutely, your own taste preferences.
Exactly.
And you make a good point. When I go to the grocery store, I kind of go with a plan in mind, but I like to see what produce is there. Sometimes they get a special deal and something in that I hadn't expected.
Right. Or something looks good,
Something might look good or not so good, so you kind of have to call an audible and switch things up. But that's what keeps it interesting, too. That adds more variety.
So I'm putting a little bit of everything in here because, there are different qualities in this food. I actually love spinach. If I could just eat spinach with sautéed mushrooms every night, I absolutely would. And I love it. I love, love, love it. It drives my husband crazy, but whatever. Okay, so what are we going to put in this one? This is it's got chickpeas, so we'll go with the peas. Put some peas in on the top. I feel like I've used just about everything except for the Kalamata olives at this point and the mozzarella. So, I'm just, think about what would go in an Italian salad. Like what would go in, what would you put in an Italian salad? So kind of go with that. Okay, and then, where's my little container here?
And if you do make your own salad dressings and you have some left over, as I said, they do stay good for about a week in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
But you can also use them as a marinade, or the ginger sesame one you could even use as a stir-fry sauce.
Right.
So they can also be used more versatilely in the kitchen, not just as a salad dressing.
Yeah. I do love these. Is there anything redeeming about pistachio nuts?
Oh, yeah, nuts are great. They have more of the monounsaturated fats in them. They're a good source of fiber, vitamin E, which is a good antioxidant. So nuts are great.
Yeah.
And a variety, too. People often ask me which nuts are best. And like with most things, the important thing is to eat a variety. We tend to eat the same 10 dinners over and over again. So
Right.
got to think of ways to kind of shake it up a little bit and add variety.
Exactly. I just think we do. Our mouths get bored. We're looking for excitement, and that's what it'll do. So that is, I feel like I've used everything here. I did not use the cauliflower and the broccoli, and I didn't put scallions in because I cheated and used the tomatoes with the onions already in it and some spices. What would our listeners put in their salads?
Yeah, feel free to submit your ideas or questions through the chat function. We'd be happy to answer them. Do you have any tips on how you kind of get this back and forth to work without any mishaps?
Well, this doesn't go, we just did that fun thing once and everybody was responsible for bringing one. I think the coalition picked up the lettuce. But honestly, when I'm taking this to work, I literally open up the refrigerator and walk out the door with my with my ball jar salad. And, again, they do last the week. And if something comes up, speaking of sort of impromptu, we're late coming home and we don't have time to cook, or we order out or something like that. The salad is a quick addition to it, but it's also fine to just leave it in there. Great, you prepped 5 days worth of salads, but it's no biggie if you don't eat it until Saturday or Sunday. That's kind of nice too.
Right, yeah, as I said, with the meal prep, it is that initial investment of time, but to me it just takes that extra pressure off during the week to know that things are at least get it started, and it's much more efficient to prep meals. And then I have to have my lunch. I'm not a morning person, so my lunch has to be just grab and go.
Yeah, and well, the other thing is about a lot of these things, so if you prep them and you have leftover foods, or you didn't, honestly, one large carrot would take care of you could put it in 5 jars and call it a day. It doesn't even have to be that large. Same thing, a stalk of celery. You don't need a whole bunch. But if you end up with a lot of extra things, put them make a chili out of them. Cook them instead and make a chili out of them. Throw these things all together. It's you know, if you want to chop them up a little bit finer, that's fine too. But these are pretty simple things to use up in your family. You know, it's
Yeah, you could make a soup, a stir fry,
Exactly.
a chili, anything like that. You could make a
Exactly.
pilaf with them with a whole grain.
Couscous is a great one, and you know, just chopping these things up finely. And one thing about the mozzarella balls, they're really like they don't really have a lot of flavor. these little tiny bits of mozzarella, but you know, those you might want to put in the bottom of the jar or not. But so many different things, different ways to prepare it. It's so funny because I told my husband I was going to do the cooking class, to be a guest chef at the Wilmot Cancer Center, and he said, "What are you making?" And I told him, and he's like, "That's not cooking. You're not cooking. That's totally not cooking." So I did not cook a thing. It's just, but the nice weather is coming. The public market, especially on Thursday mornings, is just it's got this stuff. It's beautiful. So you don't need to go. Brave, you know, put your mask on and brave the parking lots at the bigger grocery stores. But I do want to say about the F. Oliver's mention, it is absolutely divine. And I know that Penelope Panko, who owns it, is a big supporter of Pluta and a big supporter of the Breast Cancer Coalition. And it's, walk in there, you cannot believe they pour you little containers like we're using tonight of balsamics to try. Oils too, but the balsamics are absolutely amazing. You can't believe you're drinking vinegar, sipping vinegar, just sipping.
Yeah, the vinegars they're very seasonal, which I like to do too, change
Yeah.
things up with the season. But then you can even use them in beverages. We've used some of them in beverages. And so it's just a great way to add a lot of flavor without
Right.
really any calories in them. In addition to the public market, I also encourage people to kind of use our local farmers markets.
Absolutely. The farm markets
This
are
is a great time
wonderful.
to sign up if you want to participate in a share or a CSA, community supported agriculture. You can sign up for a share and you get a weekly box of the produce, which I like is because they're giving you what is really freshest and coming in peak season at that time of year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the next few months,
wonderful.
I really enjoy the local produce. It's so much more flavorful and try to
It really is. Support the small vendors and get out there and do it. The other, you know, we had a survivor once who was absolutely so helpful. She was on our advocacy committee, and she would compile a list of all of the farmers markets. And, you know, we published it once in our newsletter, and we really should do it again. Just, you know, it's a great idea and a great suggestion keeps you away from the crowds for those of us who are still worried about COVID-19. I am, even though I have my vaccine card and I've been fully vaccinated, it feels uncertain about being in gatherings and even, you know, outside of my bubble. So, yeah, but that's a great suggestion, going there and checking them all out.
Well, thanks for sharing so many of your tips. I know I learned some great hacks. I love that little part that souffle cup, that little plastic cup fits right at the top of the jar there. What a perfect way to keep your
It is. I
crunchy
ordered
things
those.
crunchy.
You know, I had cookie making with all 5 of the grandchildren. And what I did was I put all the cookie decorations because of COVID, you don't want them sharing and touching and doing all of that. So we did we put the little sprinkles and things in individual cups. Bargain, $12 on Amazon. You get 200 of them and lids.
But thanks so much for sharing your hacks and your expertise with this.
My pleasure.
Everything looks delicious, and what a great way to increase the vegetables and nutrition in your diet. Thank you so much, Holly, for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.